Hello, everyone. Can you hear me fine? Yeah? Good evening. I'm really happy to be here with you tonight. I'm going to start off my talk with a pair of confessions. I could probably speak Spanish to you today, right? But I chose to speak English. And the second confession is I am not an expert in artificial intelligence. Okay, so we're good, right? However, I do know a thing or two about innovation intelligence, right? Things like foresight, strategy, business model innovations. I kind of know how businesses, companies, especially large companies, deal with discontinuous change, right? What we call disruptive or radical change. And towards that end, I work with trends, future scenarios, and business model innovations. Right. Tonight, I'm not going to be talking about the future of artificial intelligence. I'm not going to be talking about the future of artificial intelligence, but I am going to talk about how future-oriented decision-making will impact our work on artificial intelligence. So what this means is how senior decision makers think about the future will greatly affect our innovation projects. Okay, so I hope this provides some value to all those who are involved in such projects, or anyone who simply is curious and wants to see how all this stuff kind of works, at least from my point of view. Okay? Okay, that's me. A little bit younger, a few years ago, but okay. So, conceptually, any business or any organization only has three functions, right? Create new value, operate the business model, and trade assets for value, right? Create new value is the responsibility of innovation managers, technology managers, and increasingly corporate venture managers. Operate the business model is the responsibility of business unit managers and product managers. And obviously, trade is usually in the dominion of M&A managers, corporate development managers, and oftentimes corporate strategy managers focus on the trade function. Now, if I had to show what strategy might look like visually under this concept, it might look something like this, right? So we have operate and trade, increasing the competitiveness of our firm, and is focused on the short term. And then we have create new value, which is focused on sustainability or long life, and is focused on the long term. Now, based on my experience and my humble opinion, I think strategy really kind of looks like this, right? Meaning that we're just focused on the short term. For some reason, there's a big good debate about it, we are not pursuing creating new value in our organizations today, right? So if we kind of look over, well, actually, we might even say we're stuck in short-termism, and actually, we've been stuck in short-term for more than about 25 years. So what we see is back in '94, one of the first big studies on strategy or corporate strategy was done by the duo of Hamill and Pralahan. They found that senior managers only spent 3% of their time thinking about the future. 3%. So if they work a 40-hour week, we're looking at 1.2 hours, right? I think they probably spent more time in the bathroom than thinking about the future. Or maybe they were thinking about the future while they were there. But anyway, it's very lamentable, 1.2 hours. Then we have, in 2014, we fast forward a little bit. This is a study done by A.T. Kearney, covered many different industries and many different participants. What we found was that although long-term strategies were definitely more competitive than short-term strategies, only 6% of companies pursued long-term strategies. So what this means is that in companies, 94% of survey companies were pursuing short-term strategies or did no strategies at all. The most recent snapshot we have is given by CB Insights. This was last summer that came out, right? What we find here is that, okay, so after 10 years of serious work with innovation in corporations, still the majority of us, 58%, don't have formalized innovation processes. So what that means is innovation in large corporations, it's usually an ad hoc affair and a fly-by-night operation. Right. However, 71% agreed that we should measure innovation. I think that's a good thing. Unfortunately, 85% of those companies decided to use revenue to measure that innovation, which means it's a short-term indicator. So again, the most recent snapshot we have of innovation is that everyone is stuck in short-term, right? When I see this, I get reminded that maybe the senior managers are being put to a test, right? So what kind of test or what test? The marshmallow test, right? So for those of you who don't know about the marshmallow test, this was a test to study delayed gratification, right? So a psychologist by the name of Walter Mischel in the 60s and 70s designed and executed a whole bunch of tests in which they just gathered together a whole bunch of kids, 3 to 6 years old, and offer them a choice, right? You can have one marshmallow and eat it whenever you want, or you could have 2, but you would have to wait 15 minutes and have the one marshmallow there looking at you. Right? So if you haven't seen this video, there's photos of this. The kids are really cute while they try to work it out, right? Now, coming back to our senior managers, the P&L owners. So these are the people who are responsible for business profit and losses. What we see over the last 25 years is that they've been eating the one marshmallow right away, right? And that's a shame because what the marshmallow test showed us was that delaying gratification is good for us. The kids who passed this test later on had better test scores, attained higher levels of education, enjoyed better health, and a whole lot more of other benefits. And we're finding out that delaying gratification is not only good for individuals, but it's also very good for businesses, right? So we have a study done by McKinsey Global Institute in 2017. It was one of the first serious looks at the performance of long-term strategies. And as we will see, long-term strategy handily outperforms short-term strategies, right? Actually, it kicks ass, right? What do I mean by this? 47% higher revenues. Oh, by the way, this study studied the difference between short-term oriented companies and long-term oriented companies over a period of 13 years, so from 2000 to 2014. At the end of 2014, we saw long-term strategies providing 47% more revenue, 36% more earnings, 81% more profit, and 58% more market cap. So what's clear here is long-term strategies are clearly better, and we finally have proof. I think we all kind of felt this, but I think we're finally getting some numbers about this, right? So the question becomes, how do we do this? How do we pursue or develop or formulate long-term strategies? And this leads us into a conundrum, a dilemma. Even though we want to do this, there aren't very many people who know how to do this, right? So from a know-how perspective, there aren't many practitioners of long-term strategies today, right? So we have to look probably also elsewhere. And for me, a good place to start for this kind of inspiration would be strategy itself, right? So according to strategy experts, there's only 3 types of strategy, right? Strategies of force, strategies from above, and strategies from below, right? In business, strategy of force, we don't really use it anymore, right? Unless we're in the mafia business, right? Most businesses, we're really using strategies from above and strategies from below. What I mean by strategies from above is that we start with power, and we want to end with power, right? So the whole thing is we want to work to maintain the status quo. So what does that mean? We're focusing on increasing competitiveness by maximizing efficiency. Things we need to do is to do creative problem solving, 2, provide better product and services, and better business models, right? On the other hand, on strategies from below, what we're doing is we're starting without any power, and we want to end up with some power, right? So here we're really working on finding new ways or avenues for growth by framing problems differently, building or creating new value propositions and new business models, right? Irregardless of what types of strategy we might choose to take, all strategy really begins with strategic thinking, right? So strategic thinking here means perceiving, prospecting, and probing, right? Perceiving is detecting change, right? By being sensitive to the environment, we can detect change early to give ourselves more time to come up or formulate responses, right? So it gives us some kind of flexibility in our work. By prospecting, we mean understanding change. This simply means, for me, the capacity to think in multiple time frames. This is what strategy is really essentially all about, and applying many different mental models for understanding change. Once we have this, we have an opportunity to access insights, and with these insights, we may be able to create visions of the future. So what I mean by visions of the future is not a neat 20-word phrase about how good your company is. What I mean by visions of the future are all these visions that helps us overcome fear caused by uncertainty, things that inspire us, helps us hope and dream, so that we can do hard things, right? And then once we have this clear vision in place, then we have a good context for developing new products and new business models, right? This is in a nutshell what strategic thinking looks like. So where does strategic thinking fit into the innovation landscape today? If we look today, the doing part, right? So when we see design thinking, lean and agile, this is what most innovation practice looks like in corporations today, mostly focus on the doing part of the innovation. What I'm proposing and hoping for is that we should do some thinking before some doing, right? And that's why I'm sorry for the agile folks. I had to push you out of the site and put in foresight to make some space there. So why is thinking and doing important? Because our business outcomes greatly depend on it, right? So when we think too much, when we do a lot and think very little, we kind of end up like Wile E. Coyote, right? Always scheming, always active, always moving, always doing things. But we're always hungry because we're not catching the roadrunner, right? All the audience knows that if Wile E. Coyote just paused and thought a little bit, he might be able to reach his objectives, right? And on the other extreme, when we think too much and do too little, we become petrified like Rodin's thinker, right? We do nothing, right? Here at TEDxGranVíaSalon, right, we're going to take the good route and propose and promote our mix of thinking and doing, okay? So actually, I want to end my talk by making a plea for all decision makers or all those who inspire to be leaders. In strategy, or all strategy work really, aside from all the technical stuff, really starts with that vision we talked about. And please, as leaders, we have to create these visions. But again, not a vision in terms of logical exercise, but vision that inspires us and that helps us overcome our fears so we can do really good things. So please, show us your vision and tell us a good story. Thank you.